Kundalini Awakening, a meditation and cannabis trip report by Daedalic, posted to earbud.org October 3rd, 2011. This all occurred about 9 months ago. I used some notes I had written immediately after this experience to aid in my recollection of it. In the month prior to the experience I'm about to describe, I ate psilocybin mushrooms for the first time, and then 3 times afterwards, with each dose spaced about 1 week apart. The first 3 trips left me with a new, more positive perspective on life, along with increased motivation. The last trip was very physically unpleasant, and left me in a state of ego loss, depersonalization, which lasted a week. Over the course of that week, despite feeling mentally lost, I continued on with my daily routines, which included eating a cannabis brownie every evening. I don't recall anything unusual about the highs the brownies gave me up to the point of my very odd experience, which I will describe here. Several hours after eating one of these brownies, I decided to do some meditation. I found a comfortable place to sit and began a mindfulness exercise. About 10 minutes into it, my attention drifted toward my own body and began to focus on my body high. Somehow, I managed to manipulate these sensations into an upward flow. Upon doing this, I noticed a warm vibration at the base of my spine. This sensation reminded me of an article I had read on Kundalini months ago, which I dismissed as BS at the time. So, out of curiosity, I decided to direct all of my attention to the strange sensation. As I focused, the vibration grew more intense and the heat grew hotter. The sensation began to rise and expand, moving slowly up my spinal column. The heat soon became excruciatingly intense, as though my internal organs had been set on fire. However, for some reason, this did not disturb me. I continued to focus on the sensation, feeling compelled to direct it upward. The sensation reached my solar plexus, where it filled my chest cavity, reaching the peak intensity of heat. Upon reaching my throat, the sensation cooled, the vibration increased, and the upward motion had ceased. With my throat vibrating, I took a brief respite, and then I directed the sensation upward again. The warm vibration spread upward over my face and forehead and began to gather at the top of my head. Then, I saw the image of a circle at the top of my head. Inside this circle there was darkness, and outside the circle were what appeared to be flames spiraling into the edge. Suddenly, the floor beneath me seemed to disappear, and I felt as though I was falling. This sensation of falling startled me, so I pushed the sensation downward from the top of my head for a moment, leaving me firmly sitting on the floor again. Relieved, I pushed the sensation back upward. Again, the floor disappeared from under me, and I was falling. The circle loomed above me larger than ever, and my frame of vision began to move into it. Upon entering the circle, my entire body became immersed in a blissful vibration. Around me there was a kaleidoscope of pink and purple light, arranged in a spiral ascending upward, full of indescribable patterns and intricacies. In the centre of this spiral, against the backdrop of a brilliant white light, loomed a silhouette of a thin, human-like figure with 6 arms and an oddly shaped head, sitting in a meditative pose. Upon seeing this figure, my blissful vibration was quickly replaced by the feeling of being electrocuted throughout my body. All the while, I continued to move upward, towards the strange figure. As I moved closer, a feeling of fear overtook me. Simultaneously, while having this out-of-body experience, my visual field expanded to include the inside of my own body as it filled with white light descending from the top of my head. My organs, blood vessels, tissues, and even cells all seemed to become visible to me as the white light moved downward, reaching the upper chest area. The feeling of fear intensified and quickly gave way to a feeling of impending doom. Fearing certain death, I panicked and decided to abort the experience. I performed several hand gestures unknown to me. I'm not sure whether these gestures had significance or were simply the result of desperation on my part. And with all my willpower, I forcibly retraced my steps back out of the circle. The inner white light lifted back upward, the ground appeared back underneath me, and with the aid of my hand movements, I quickly pushed the sensations down my spinal column, extinguishing them at the base of my spine. I was drenched in sweat, shaking and exhausted. The whole experience had lasted just a few minutes. In the days following the experience, I was in a state of mental turmoil. I was overwhelmed with empathy. Just watching the news would bring me to tears. My ego would become overly inflated at times and nearly non-existent at others. Fortunately, this soon stabilised and I felt relatively back to normal. However, there were some changes going on. My reaction to cannabis became greatly intensified, giving me intense feelings of pressure along my spine and in the centre of my forehead. This forehead pressure, which is intensified by cannabis, carries over to sobriety, even for weeks off it, and to be honest is present even as I type this up. Within the first couple months of this experience, I was also plagued by muscle spasms that occurred mainly in my legs while I was lying down. In addition, there were periods when the pressure in my forehead became so intense that I was completely unable to concentrate. There were also times when I experienced an intensification of this pressure that gave way to feelings of peace and euphoria, despite being completely sober. Following this experience, I did extensive research on Kundalini. I found that others' experiences of Kundalini paralleled mine rather closely, including the after effects. I also found out that my Kundalini awakening was a rather violent one, probably due to the fact I was under the effects of cannabis at the time. I have meditated while high since then, and felt that same warm vibration at the base of my spine, though I haven't tried to focus on it. Since my Kundalini awakening, I've become less self-centered and my mind has become clear of the random distracting thoughts that would normally be floating around, which I find to be quite peaceful. Whenever I read one of these substance-induced Kundalini experiences, it always makes me reflect on my very first breakthrough, which was on LSD. This was the video here, The Brink of Insanity. It was the second trip report I ever wrote, and one of the first trip reports I shared on the channel many years ago. I imagine most of you have watched it who are big into the Vivec lore, but if you've never watched it, I'd highly recommend you do so, because it gives a big insight into where I'm coming from when I give these commentary sections and share my own insights and worldview regarding spirituality, consciousness, God, mysticism, the whole shebang. And whilst I didn't have a parallel experience to this person's, what I can relate to, I don't know if I had a Kundalini awakening or whatever it was, but what I did feel 100% within my own body was this energy shooting from the base of my spine, my root chakra, if you will. I had no idea about any of this Kundalini chakras. I was a complete atheist a minute before this experience happened to me on LSD. Wasn't into meditation or anything. But 100% I directly felt within my own body energy shooting from the base of my spine up to the top of my head, almost exploding out of my head, and experiencing a sense of oneness and reunification with the universe and a cosmic orgasm, which just, it felt exactly like an orgasm, 100%, but universal in its magnitude. It was a deeply emotional and also troubling experience. I was crying my eyes out, and it was so weird because it felt like a release of all the egoic BS that I'd held onto and all the tension and all of the fear that I'd had up until that moment in life, and it all released. It really was a cathartic experience, but it was also quite disturbing because, I mean, I literally sort of felt like I'd broken out the Matrix and was never gonna reform my own mind. I thought I'd gone literally insane, but it was weird because I'd gone insane, but I was also experiencing this deeply intense euphoria and literal ecstasy, the epitome of ecstasy. If you'd like to hear more about that experience, please check out the video in the description. But for those who don't know what Kundalini Awakening is, and I'm not saying here that I fully think this is legit, I definitely think there's credence to it, but I don't know enough about it for me to be like, yes, I'm very aware that chakras are fully real and that this is a part of reality. It's definitely a part of reality, but I don't know the truth of it. I don't know what the truth of Kundalini and chakras are. All I can say is that I can definitely open my mind to it because I had a very similar experience to what people describe as a Kundalini awakening on LSD. But they can happen just randomly to people and through meditation and all sorts of other spiritual pursuits. Mine just happened randomly and quite violently, a bit like this Daedalic person. So a Kundalini awakening, in the context of Eastern spiritual traditions, refers to the awakening of dormant spiritual energy at the base of the spine. This energy, often described as a coiled serpent, is believed to rise through the body's chakra system, potentially leading to a transformative spiritual experience and enlightenment. While the concept is deeply rooted in yoga and other spiritual practices, it's also gaining attention for its potential to enhance well-being and personal growth. Key aspects of the Kundalini awakening include the energy. Kundalini is considered a powerful life force energy residing at the base of the spine, often referred to as the Muladhara chakra. The awakening. This awakening is a gradual process that can involve various physical and mental symptoms as the energy rises through the chakras. The chakra system. The awakening is believed to be linked to the 7 chakras, energy centers that are associated with different aspects of physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Potential benefits. A Kundalini awakening is thought to unlock deep reservoirs of wisdom, enhance consciousness, and potentially lead to a profound transformation of one's being. Spiritual practices. Practices like yoga, meditation, and specific breathing techniques are often used to facilitate and support the awakening process. Important considerations. It is not a one-size-fits-all experience. The Kundalini awakening can vary significantly from person to person. Potential challenges. The process may involve challenges and discomforts, especially as the dormant energy begins to move and clear blockages within the body. Guidance is important. It's recommended to seek guidance from experienced practitioners or teachers to navigate the journey safely and effectively. In essence, Kundalini awakening is a spiritual concept that, when understood and approached with care, can offer the potential for profound personal transformation and growth. So, Kundalini awakening, is it legit? Is it New Age spiritual BS? Don't think that's the truth, to be fair. I mean, Kundalini isn't a New Age phenomenon. It's been going about for a very, very, very long time. I believe it has its origins in sort of the yogic traditions in India. I don't really know much about this, to be honest. All I know is that I can relate to the actual experience of energy shooting from the bottom of my spine up to the top, almost like opening my third eye in a sense. I don't actually know literally what happened to me. All I know is that throughout so many of the years since that experience, I've read countless reports, watched videos. In fact, there was a video by Jared Wright with your mate Tom, and he described a Kundalini awakening, and it was the first time I made the parallel between a Kundalini awakening and my own breakthrough / ego death experience on LSD, because it wasn't in direct parallel to the other ego deaths I'd read about online. It felt way more cosmically aligned in terms of like having sex with the universe itself, which is a lot of what some Kundalini awakenings seem to be described as. So yeah, what is it? Is it real? Is it not? What are your thoughts on it? I definitely am open-minded to it, to be honest, and the more I read about it, the more I seem to gravitate toward it being an actual aspect of the human experience. And it's definitely changed my life ever since I had my own little awakening, and 100% in relation to cannabis, which I just cannot experience like how I used to before. And I get the exact same sort of pressure on my forehead and weird sort of this maelstrom of euphoria and dysphoria all molded into one. It's really not nice. Just avoid cannabis altogether. Although I will say happy 420 to any of my stoners in the audience. I imagine quite a lot of you. Hope you've had a good day, celebrated with safety and style, and hope you enjoyed this little insight into cannabis and the spiritual properties that it can induce. Just remember to be careful with it, like anything, and take it easy. I shall see you on the other side.